Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese and welcome to the Scrapbook Showgram. We are looking today at what I call an exploding style of scrapbook. You may have made it as a card, but it works great as a scrapbook too. And this one, I've labeled the location where the photos inside were taken. So this one says 3 Arch Bay, which is an area in Laguna. It's on a belly band. When I pull it down, you can see that I've used a stencil to create the date. These photos were all taken in 2012, in the summer of 2012. And when I open it up, you can see why it's called an exploding style book. It's really fun, amazingly simple to do. And if you look at it more closely, you can see that all of the square sections are actually covered with photos. This is my friend Bruce and his daughter and his grandsons. And the triangle sections are where Bruce is going to put his thoughts. He's going to write it on the computer and we'll print it out and we're going to stick them onto those triangular sections. I don't want to cut a photo on the diagonal, so all the journaling is going to go in those triangle places. And if I set this down and sort of give you an example, I have a heart here. We'll be adding some journaling, and then I'll probably place this heart right on top of some of the journaling. Sometimes I've actually done some rub-ons right over some of the photos. I've handwritten here, refresh in Laguna Beach. I've added some of the detailing, but mostly all of these triangle sections are where we're going to add the journaling. And you know, there's going to be lots of it. I think the story behind the photo is almost as, I think it's really as important as the photo. So to begin with, we're going to start with the pages. And what you have to do is you need to start with 3 sheets of paper that's cut into a square. Now I have 2 here because one I've already folded just to make it faster, but I want to show you how to do the folding. This square happens to be 9.5 inches, so it's a 9.5 inch square, but the size can vary. At the end, I'll show you another option. If you have pattern paper that's got a pattern on one side and it's white on the other side, it's going to matter. So I thought I would take that example so you could see how to accomplish what you want and make sure that you always have the pattern showing. I want the first page to be folded in this manner. I'm going to fold it in half with the pattern on the inside. So I'm just folding my paper in half. It doesn't matter whether you fold it the horizontal or the vertical way, because I'm going to open it back up and I'm going to fold it in half again the other way. So the first 2 folds are folding the paper in half, right down the vertical and the horizontal lines. Once you've done that, now I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to fold on the diagonal. So my first 2 folds, although when I folded them, they were mountains, now that I flipped it over, my first 2 folds are actually valley folds, and then this diagonal fold becomes a mountain fold. When you open this up and you poke right there, that's all you have to do to get this so that it starts to fold into this perfect shape that we're going to use for the pages of the book. This is going to be either the first page or the 3rd page. If I take the one that's already folded exactly the same and I overlap the edges, can you see my problem? I don't want the back side of the paper to be on the front side of my scrapbook. So for the middle page, I need to just start with my paper in the opposite. So because I started this way on my first folds, this time I need to start with my paper this way. So this time I'm going to fold with the paper, so instead of being on the outside, the pattern is, on the inside, the pattern now is on the outside. And I do my folding in half and then turn it and fold in half again. And then flip the paper over before I do the diagonal fold, which is the final fold. It is surprising how simple this is for how wow of an impact it has. Once again, I open it up, I poke on that one spot, and it allows me then to bring these pages together. Notice it's exactly the same, however, the pattern is just in the opposite. Instead of being on this side, it's on this side. Now to create the book, you do want your book, you could keep going. You could have 5 pages you could have 7 pages. I don't think I'd go bigger than 7 pages. It becomes kind of unwieldy. But you do need an odd number in order for the front and the back to close in a book style. So if I put these together, you can see this is going to be the first page. I'm going to overlap these right here in order to begin the construction of singles into an actual book. So I could put my adhesive either on the top here or on here. I'm going to go ahead and place it, and I'm not going to stop to put as much adhesive as you really need, but just enough to hold it together so I can show you how to then attach this next one. So I'm going to bring this in, and I'm using my folds as a guide to make sure that I have it positioned correctly, and I'm going to just set it down, press so that that adhesive can get a nice good bond. And I've created the first few pages. Now I need to take what is the final leftover edge, and I need to attach it like this to this page. So I'm going to, I could either put my adhesive here, or it's easiest for you to see what I'm doing if I place it on the top section. So I'll do it once again here, and again, more adhesive than that, but it will be enough for these pages to stay together. So I'm going to take the book and overlap this page, tuck it so that it's right against the folds on both sides, and then I want to press it down. I'm going to close this up, fold this closed, and once again, I'll just press on the whole thing. I'll probably turn it over and press there too, because as I said, I didn't put as much adhesive as you really should. But see how you've created the book? It's really easy to do. And this is just 3 pages. Like I said, if you want it longer, you can't do 4 without it opening oddly. You do need to do 2 more pages so that you have an odd number, in which case would be 5. At this place, you want to add the decorations inside. Now, Bruce takes beautiful photographs, and if I bring these up and show you, I had so many great photos to work from. Here is Bruce with his oldest grandson, James, and then right underneath is his younger grandson, Nathan. So I'm going to take the photo of Nathan, and I'll put adhesive, remember, more than that, and I'm going to attach it because it looks like I've cut at his head. I'm going to have that be at the top. I've trimmed the photo so that it fits inside. This results, a 9.5 inch square that I started with results in pages that are 4 3/4 inch on this inside dimension. So if I tuck that there, I now have some place that I can go back and add. If I bring up the finished one, I'll set it right in front of there so you can see kind of what I did. See how I added a little band of red and then a rub-on that says memories. I don't need to put too much because remember, I'm going to add all the journaling on those triangle sections. You would go back then and add another photo. If I'm using a vertical one, I would position this like so, and I could position it so there's extra space for journaling or embellishments here, or I could attach it this way. Either way. And then in each of the square sections, you would go ahead. Here is Bruce with his daughter and Nathan. Each section will have either a vertical or a horizontal photo. I purposely used both so you could see how well they work. You're going to add all those in and the embellishments and the journaling inside, but I want to get to the covers. So the front cover was created simply by adding some of the same paper. I have a little band that's going to be the front cover. Remember I said that the square section ends up being 4 3/4 on this little scrapbook. So my front and back cover is just a hair bigger than 4 3/4. I want to make sure that if it's not perfectly straight, I don't have white showing, but I really don't want a lip. So I'm going to have it be just, maybe a 1/16 of an inch bigger than 4 3/4 square. And then I've got a narrow band of the same pattern paper that I used on the inside. I'm going to add the blue because it's both Nathan and James. his two grandsons' favorite color, but it's a little bit of a strong color. To soften it, I'm going to go back with the white pen and just add some stripes. And I'm not going to stop to do the whole thing, but by the time I add striping all the way along the edge, it ends up softening the darker blue, and it feels like a lighter blue. If you look at the cover, you can see it softens it nicely. So if you can imagine that I've gone ahead and I've added those white stripes to the whole strip that I need, then I'm going to tuck it against the pattern section, and I'm going to remove the excess, but because I'm going to also have to trim a little bit off of this red, what I'll do is I'm going to add this at the same time. Because I used red on the inside, once again, because it was one of the boys' favorite colors, I wanted there to be some continuity and not have it just kind of glare at you on the inside when I hadn't used it at all on the outside. So I'm adding just this little narrow hint of red to the outside and the front cover. So once again, you'll trim off any of the excess and get those little things out of the way. Now, if you look at the other information on the front cover, this is a stencil, and all I'm showing you here is the numbers, but this is actually part of one of my HSN kits. So the stencil has uppercase, lowercase, and numbers, and it's my printing / handwriting. It's kind of a combination. The last time I looked online, I don't know if they still have these, but they were on sale. It has all the things that I use all the time. It's got the white pen, it's got the tweezers, it's got the ruler that you can see through, all the stencil. I mean, even a watermark ink pad with some stamps. I mean, it really is like my favorite tools. I use the stencil to do the date. So I'm going to turn this right side up so that I can see. And since I've already done one, I know about where to start with the first number. If you're doing this and you don't know if you have enough space, it's always safest to start with the middle, one of the middle numbers or letters, and then work your way out to the edges. So I know that by starting in this area, I'm going to have plenty of room to write 2012. You're going to go back and color that in with the same white pen in order to get the front cover that I have that looks like this. Once it's fully embellished, it's easiest to do it while it's loose like this. Then all you need to do is just add a little adhesive, or actually I'm going to add a little adhesive. You want to add a lot of adhesive. And I'm going to place it, and I want to show you there's a couple of options. If you look at my finished one, the first photo is oriented like this. I have the cover oriented the same. So it's oriented in the same position as that very first photo inside. So if this is the first photo inside, my cover is going to be positioned like so. It also works if you give it 1/4 turn. You could do it that way as well. You can play around with it and see which way you prefer. But once you have attached the front cover, you're going to want to attach a back cover as well. I didn't put embellishments on there, but it's just cut the same dimensions, 4 3/4, and it's a square, and it's just a hair, like a 1/16 of an inch bigger than the 4 3/4. Like I said, just so that if any of my folds aren't perfect, I don't want any white poking out anywhere. So I'll attach the back cover, and then I created a belly band, and all I did was just cut. This is a narrow strip of the same red paper, and the dimension of it's a 1 3/4 inch wide, and it needs to be long enough to fit around. I think it was a 12-inch piece of scrapbook paper. So basically, I wrap it around in order to get this first fold on both sides. So I wrap it enough to get the first fold, and then I go back and I finger crease that first fold. Then I use my bone folder to go back, and a 1/4 inch over, I add a second crease mark. And I do that with my scoring tool. Then I fold on the second crease which is going to allow for the dimension of this thick of a scrapbook. Remember, I don't have even all of the photos and the embellishments in here yet. This way, when I place this around the book, it will slide on and off easily, and it will allow for the thickness of all the folds and all the photos. I'm going to just add adhesive in order to close it up. And for an embellishment, all I did was take more of the same patterned paper and attached it. I'm not going to stop to glue it, but you would glue it on, and then I used more of the pattern paper for the title where I hand wrote 3 Arch Bay. And if I bring this over, you can see this is what I did. And if I slide this back over this little handy mini book, you can see how nicely it holds it closed. The reason that I did this particular project was because a viewer on the comment section said she had created an explosion style scrapbook and she was having trouble with the ribbons cutting into the paper. And I wanted for her to be able to see how to solve that issue. Here is a scrapbook that I made using photos of Christy's, her sons, and her husband, even her dad's in here. And notice this one, instead of a belly band, I've used ribbon as the way to hold the book closed. The ribbon is trapped between the back cover and the back page. However, from her description in the comment, it sounds like that the tension that's created when she pulls this tight is somehow making her get cuts in the paper. So what I'm suggesting that she do is trim off the ribbon and create a belly band that will slide over it, and it should solve your problem. While we have this here, don't you want to see what's inside? This is Christy's Boys, and it's the same. This is 8.5-inch squares, and you can see, if I just hold it steady, you can see that it's pictures of Christy and her husband Brian and their 2 sons. This was even before they had Kate, who you've seen her pictures lots of. And even there's one picture in the mud where her dad is with all of the boys as well. So you can see how fun this style of a book can be used. You know, the style of exploding construction, it's equally effective as a card or even as a mini scrapbook.